The Near Futurist, a podcast with Guy Clapperton. Hello, and thanks for downloading The Near Futurist, a show presented by me, Guy Clapperton. Today I'm going to be continuing to look at business and how it's going to cope post-COVID-19. I should just put this in context and say I'm recording on the 14th of May 2020 for immediate upload and then release on the 22nd of May. And I don't have to tell you, a lot can change. Will they introduce further easing of the lockdown within days from this broadcast? It's close by, but I'm not that much of a futurist. Now at this point I normally do a quick bio of myself and hint that if you have a conference coming up I can be available as an MC or speaker, but nobody's planning conferences at the moment. So I'll just say that if you need to do face-to-face press interviews or presentations online and need help, you can find me at remotemediatraining.com. I've been a tech journalist for over 30 years and I know how the traps can happen, and I've been training remotely for over 10 years. But let's leave my self-promotion behind and get to the interesting bit that you wanted to hear. My guest today has been leading her company's communications and response to COVID-19 on a global scale. She has over 20 years' experience and works actively to identify the latest trends, build solutions internally, and help customers reach their business goals. Prior to joining her current company, she worked at Cisco, Tandberg, and Siemens Corporation. Her current role is as Chief Marketing Officer for AppDynamics, and her name is Angie Mistretta. Angie, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me, Guy. Good to
You're
be here.
more than welcome. Okay, now I did my usual trick of copying and pasting the intro from just about wherever I could, mostly stolen from LinkedIn and your PR representative, so thanks for all the support for that. So everything I could find I just threw in there, but in your own words, perhaps you could tell us a bit about yourself and your company.
Sure. As you mentioned, I started my career in tech marketing and have pretty much stayed in this space for the past 20 years, moving from telecom over to video conferencing and then into Cisco. And in the Cisco business, I did product marketing for collaboration business, which is obviously super relevant right now. I managed all of our product marketing for video conferencing, for WebEx, so started to really get some experience in SaaS and software marketing. So when the opportunity came about for AppDynamics, which is a Cisco-owned company, it was a great next step for me. I wanted to stay in a high-growth area of the business with leading software technology and really great people. What AppDynamics does is we do application performance monitoring. And in fact, we've been recognized again an 8th year in a row by Gartner for being a leader in this space. So what we do is we really help organizations deliver the best digital experiences via their applications or their websites out to their end users, out to their customers, and now probably even more relevant, even their employees, as everyone with COVID obviously turned to remote work. So we're seeing a tremendous amount of interest in what we do because the digital experience is now more important than ever, because people are using applications and websites for just about everything we do, from educating our kids to working remotely, shopping, fitness, ordering food, just everything. And so I wanted to make sure when the COVID issue started growing in size and scale and really being recognized as a global pandemic, I went to my leadership team and I said, we're relevant right now and we can help. So we put together an offer to help organizations who are struggling with these surges in traffic. So we're giving them access to our technology for free. We're also giving a lot of education and support for free because people are just hungry for the knowledge of how they can help continue to deliver the best digital experiences, even amongst these huge surges of traffic that most are seeing.
Now, as we speak, of course, if I can take it away from AppDynamics and get some comment on infrastructure issues overall, the infrastructure, it strikes me, is holding up really quite well internationally in spite of the entire world being on Zoom and Netflix simultaneously. I'm just wondering if we could focus on some of the positives. What's gone right? I was anticipating, quite wrongly, that at some point the internet would just about melt down with this sudden surge. What's gone right?
I think a lot of things are going right. I mean, it's definitely been a struggle, but I think first and foremost, there's a lot of behavior change from a technology standpoint, but also a human standpoint. And some of that I think is going to be positive and long lasting and really reshaping the way we move forward. You've seen from an infrastructure perspective, Netflix, Zoom, and WebEx, of course, we are all, it's not just dependent on our technology, it's dependent on the cable providers, the service providers. So, in our business, we've seen a lot of these organizations, regardless of being highly competitive with one another, really pull together to make sure that they can continue to provide bandwidth and to be able to support all of these surges. I had the same thought as you, and as did many others, like, oh my gosh, how are we going to hold up this global economy? And it's all about these organizations who are pulling together in a way they've never had to before to make sure that they can deliver, the service, and then we can deliver the technology that sits on top of the service that extends out to the end user. So it's really been remarkable to see these councils kind of emerging to help plan and carry everything forward. And then, on the personal note, I think we're learning a lot about like the value of the human connection. And, I've done collaboration marketing for prior to moving to AppDynamics. So I have managed global teams remotely for quite some time, and I was very comfortable with it. But a lot of organizations are not. And I think one of the other positives will be that people are going to acknowledge that you can be highly effective working remotely. And I do think that will have some downstream trends about how, when, and if, and how people go back to the office. So I think also on the personal note, it's been really fun for me, and I'm sure you've been learning a lot about people that you work with. You're seeing into their houses, you're meeting their children, you're meeting their animals. And, I think it's a really unique and probably an unanticipated benefit, but I think, again, it brings us closer together as a community. And I think, all of these things happening at the same time, all amidst massive amounts of change coming daily, I think just seeing the positives and people being positive about it has been one of the biggest things that's gone right.
Yes, I think the humanizing side is quite nice. There was a huge fuss a year or two ago when that poor guy interviewed on the BBC had his children invading his interview. I don't know whether that clip, I think it went international. I gather from the laugh that you've seen it. But I just thought at the
I
time,
have.
that's what we've all got to get used to, because if we're going to work from home and the moves were already in place, no one was saying, let's burn more air miles, let's put more petrol guzzling vehicles on the road. There was that impetus initially. I just think, that's the sort of thing we're going to have to get used to. There will be cats wandering into a shop. There will be, all those things happening. I think, we've got to sort of stop thinking that's such a weird thing. I mean, we've covered a lot on the consumer side, of course. What sort of pressures are there on businesses to keep their infrastructure going? And, how do you have input into that?
We've heard from a lot of our customers across a number of different industries. I honestly can't think of an industry has not been impacted by this. I mean, retail, banking, obviously education and healthcare, hospitality, transportation, even our local restaurants who are now figuring out how they can increase online capacity to take orders for pickup and delivery. I mean, things that people were never even thinking about needing to pay much attention to. So I think most of what we're seeing, obviously, because of what we do, is unparalleled pressures that they're feeling on their digital services. So their websites are seeing traffic like never before. Their applications, whether it's for internal, mission critical, I have to keep secure remote workforce happening, or if it's external applications where they're delivering services to their end users, everything is just kind of these huge surges. And we actually I have a few real world examples that our clients have shared with us. We have insurance companies, for example, who went from processing 12,000 claims on average a week to now doing 300,000 claims a week, and in one single day, 100,000 claims. We have grocery retailers. I mean, obviously, we all need to have food. And so we've had a number of these global retailers, one seeing their web traffic quadruple in just the first couple of weeks, and another seeing, a 900% increase in concurrent users hitting their website. I mean, can you imagine? That would never have happened before. We have an agency who's dealing with.
Sorry, what are these people doing about this? I mean, obviously the grocers have got to look at the sheer logistics of getting the foodstuffs to people, but also, insurance claims processes and things like that in one day. And there's financial transactions you were talking about. Are we talking about an increase in automation? Because this isn't just about sheer infrastructure. It's about looking at the processes you have to go through and how to make them repeatable at speed.
Yeah, people are looking at automation as a big part of what they need to do. I think most of the initial areas where we're jumping in to help is just how can they detect problems before they happen even. And that some of that is related to artificial intelligence and surfacing issues. And some of the things that we are doing and able to help with that aren't necessarily AI related, but we have health alerts. So business can say, if I hit capacity at X level and I start to see traffic going above that, it'll send an alert back to the IT team so they can better prepare for how to manage those surges in traffic. So most of our customers are the key things they're looking at are how do I measure performance issues? A lot of people who were probably not considering a move to cloud before because they're very comfortable in their on-premise environments, and those environments were that infrastructure was serving their customer base and their user base quite well. Now they're saying, I can't deal with this capacity. I have to burst somewhere, and that's the leverage that cloud gives you. So another big area of interest that we're seeing from consumers is cloud migrations. So yeah, I think everyone's kind of scrambling in some ways to figure out how they're going to manage through this, but really trying to pay attention to, at the end of the day, delivering a good experience for these users, because we have a lot of data that shows even before this happened how frustrated people get with digital services when they perform badly. And in the survey that we did last year, for instance, 84% of people, and this is before COVID, said they have experienced some problem with their digital service. I couldn't check out, I couldn't put an item in my cart, I couldn't deposit money. And that was before this. And those people can quickly move on to another service, another brand. People, in fact, are more loyal to digital services and applications in most cases than they are to the brand itself, depending on what type of service it is, of course. So I think the user demand and the user expectation has not decreased. If anything, I think it's become even higher. And so organizations have to look to invest in technology like ours in order to help identify problems before they start, in order to monitor where people are, how are they behaving within the application, and so much more.
It all seems from the outside, speaking as someone who does consume digital services, it looks as if it's all been running very smoothly, with the odd outage from my internet service provider, but I'm quite used to that because they just do that. But I'm just wondering whether there have been any outages that we haven't heard of, without naming any names. Have there been any major incidents you've had to deal with?
We haven't seen, again, I haven't talked to every customer. We've had a few that are, doing things proactively to help. Won't name names, but people who are really trying to help, hospitals deal with surges of, people coming in, physically, and how can they use websites and applications to proactively put information out to avoid, loads of people rushing to a hospital. So that's, an example of people that are trying to add digital services to the mix to help, might not have the experience in doing something like this so quickly, so they're turning to us to help. But in terms of outages, I don't think we haven't had any that have been, written up in the news by any means. I think that there's probably a little bit more understanding at the end of the day, because this is something that no one had planned for. But I think we've been able to work quickly with our customers, even some prospects that are turning to us for help, our partner community, to help remediate the issues that these organizations are seeing. I think one of the first things that we saw people tackling was having to enable their workforce to work remotely. That was the biggest. We had a lot of customers redirecting their spend to be able to go do that. And then with that, there were some outage related things that weren't necessarily the technology fault. It could be the service provider, because like I said before, there's so many dependencies behind the scenes. But all in all, I've been really pleasantly surprised at how efficiently everything has been able to work. And I know there's a lot of stress for a lot of people who are holding it all together, and I have a lot of appreciation for those people. But yeah, I think it's been pretty positive. And we're offering, as I said, with our Assist program, more education, resources, free customer support to really dive in, roll up our sleeves, and help customers who are having any outage issues.
Obviously, that's on the technical side, or at least I intended the question to be on the technical side, I should say. There's also the cultural and business culture side. If you've suddenly got a whole load of home workers, managing them and measuring by outputs, perhaps, there's all those different things, and they require different support because they may never have worked from home either. I'm just wondering whether that's an area in which you are able to have input.
Yeah, actually, we can help. A couple of other things that AppDynamics does, and I haven't looked at the specific to remote work, but we have the ability to measure user behavior inside of an application. So think of, in the case of remote work, I can see how many people are online, how much time they're spending, where within the application. Are they doing video? Are they messaging? And that's one potential use case. We also have a product called Business IQ that helps monitor your business metrics. So you could go and apply some very specific business output metrics that we can help monitor. And yeah, you could definitely manage that way. I think the beauty of a lot of collaboration tools currently is, you can see who's online, you can see if they've read your messages and notifications and things like that. Again, I've been managing people remotely with Cisco tools for years now, and there's a lot of ways to just manage engagement. And I think, from the people side, I think just in general, people are also more forgiving right now. My mornings, I have 2 young children at home, so I will be honest and say from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock a.m., it's very hard for me to be fully productive because I'm switching calls and trying to teach them as best I can while working. So I think it's been great to see the appreciation, again, that human factor coming in to say, do the best you can. And then I think, I think it's been really interesting. I don't want to call it an experiment. This could be the way we move forward. Who knows?
Well, I think it's forced us to confront the fact that we are human beings at work as well as, we can't just switch it all off. And perhaps it was never a particularly healthy thing to do so. But this could be just me scrambling around to find positives from this dreadful situation. My brain works the same as everybody else. I will always try and find a bright side. You mentioned that you have this product that helps with metrics. I believe you have a whole schema of metrics that tests how a business is performing in a digital sense. Just in case any listeners are interested in how they might be performing, what sort of criteria do you look at? You mentioned replies to emails for some reason, or whether someone had read it.
Oh, well, within a lot of the messaging applications themselves, you can just see if I can tell if someone has read my alert. So if they're present, if their online presence is showing. That's one way that some people do measure engagement. That's what I was referring to there. Within what we do in an application environment, we can help customers set, identify business transactions so that they can get visibility into the most critical services that make up their application that they're monitoring. So if you take that out of the remote working situation and put it more into a banking environment, one of my critical business transactions would be to see how much money people are depositing. And I would set, a business metric there so that I can monitor that to make sure that people are still able to be as productive in that application, and that I can monitor trends over time. So if I see that deposits aren't being successful or the volumes are going down, well, maybe it's not that it's a people issue. Maybe there's something wrong with my application and I should go investigate that. So that's kind of what I meant with those business transactions and alerts.
Obviously, COVID-19 took us substantially by surprise, although I know there's various controversies about whether certain governments should have planned better in advance, for example, my government and yours. But by the time this podcast comes out, we may hopefully, we're not going to get political, I'm sure there will be lessons to be learned. But I'm just wondering, from a business point of view, what major lessons you think businesses should take away in case, heaven forfend, there is another pandemic or some other major business interruption? What can people take away from this?
Yeah, I agree. No one was prepared for the global change that we'd see and are seeing now. First, I think most organizations will have to think twice about their remote work policies, giving their employees the flexibility they need and they want to stay connected. And again, that with that human side for those of us dealing with educating children at home or caregiving for people who might be impacted or sick, just giving people the flexibility to stay connected and continue to deliver impact. Security obviously goes right along with this, and this is security whether you're enabling secure remote from home work or security within an application. Those are very, obviously with all the healthcare data that's now being used as people are getting identified and how they're tracking. There's a lot of security issues that people are going to need to consider and make sure they're dealing with the right vendors who can protect all of this information that we're now having to share. I think at the same time, organizations should be considering and ensuring how they can deliver their products and services with the digital commerce platform. I think if people aren't thinking about their digital experience as a way to kind of return to growth, then I think they're going to be struggling to survive, because for the very near future, no one's going to be comfortable, being in large crowds of people. So how can you take what you do and apply it to your online service and make sure that you're delivering the best service possible? This also means thinking about how their teams are going to work to deliver these experiences. So support for agile development processes that are easy to develop and implement. Like I said before, should they move to the cloud, and how do they make that work with their on-premise investments so they can really iterate much more quickly and have that burst capacity when they need it? And how to make all of these things, like I said, work with their existing environments, and looking for vendors and partners who can help manage all of this complexity that they're now going to start experiencing. And most of them probably were before. Now it's just at a much larger scale.
Okay, and finally, perhaps you could tell us something about where listeners can find out more about your organization and maybe get involved if they want to take advantage of your offerings.
Of course. So first and foremost, you can always visit our website, which is www.appdynamics.com. And right on that homepage, if you're interested in learning more about the Assist program that we rolled out to help during this time of need, there's a COVID response page, right? You can link directly from our homepage. And this is, again, where you will see access to just topics that we're trying to help customers with proactively. We're running a lot more webinars and just education to help people understand what's happening and how they can deal with it. So we have free training. We have, again, free access to our product, which is a huge value. We have free access to our customer support. If you need, help troubleshooting something, we have people available to help. So I encourage everyone to look there. And then as a whole, being part of Cisco is another great thing. They have a lot of other programs and resources to help, from remote working with WebEx to security, and even financial programs that extend to AppDynamics too, that are providing customers flexibility on payment terms, because obviously because of the financial crisis that this is all causing. So I think just encourage everyone to take a look at appdynamics.com to find out. And bottom line, we're here to help in any way we can. So if you're struggling with an application or your website, or having challenges with anything that you've come up, or just need some input on how you should think about your digital experiences and digital services going forward, I definitely encourage you to reach out via the website, and we would love to get involved and help.
Angie Mistretta of AppDynamics, thank you very much for joining me. And many thanks to you for listening. That was the Near Futurist podcast with me, Guy Clapperton. Don't forget to have a look at the website at nearfuturist.co.uk or my media training site at remotemediatraining.com. I'll be back as always in 2 weeks' time. Stay safe.